The villagers of Vazir Valley began to vanish. One by one, no signs of struggle, no footprints, no screams. Only an echo left behind a low cooing sound, like a cradle swaying in the wind. The mayor's wife disappeared first. Then the priest. Then the baker's son, who was only 4. By the end of the 3rd night, 13 houses stood empty, and every window in the village had begun to bleed. Jonathan stood at the edge of the forest, holding his journal, his fingers trembling. "There's a pattern," he muttered. "Every 7 hours, a child, an elder, a symbol carved in the threshold." Dracula stood beside him, cloaked in silence. His skin no longer shimmered with undead pallor. He was alive now, but not whole. "You feel it too," Jonathan said. Dracula nodded. "A pull." Jonathan pointed to the sky. "The blood moon's rising again, far too early." "And it's wrong," Dracula said. "It's hollow. Something's hiding behind it." In the catacombs, the cradle had moved. Neither of them had touched it, but it now sat in the center of the Hall of Weeping Saints. And inside it, where once there was only a single baby tooth, now lay a small skull. Still warm, Dracula's dreams twisted into visions. He wandered endless hallways made of flesh, lit by red lanterns that were actually beating hearts. He heard a voice whispering in a child's tone, sweet and sing-song. "Papa didn't sleep, so I made him sleep. Papa didn't bleed, so I made them weep." He woke each night with blood tears on his face and the sound of tiny footsteps in the hall. On the 7th night, the church bell rang on its own. Jonathan and Dracula climbed the tower together. Inside, the ropes were wrapped in human hair, braided and knotted with fingernails. The bell was cracked, but the sound it made was not metal. It was laughter. The Codex Sanguinem opened once more on a page neither of them had ever seen. Its title, "The Bornless One." A prophecy written in reversed Latin and inked in dried milk blood. Jonathan read it aloud, trembling. "And in the age when moon bleeds twice, from father not by seed nor vice, shall rise the heir who does not sleep, but crawls where mother's secrets weep." Dracula turned pale. "That's not about Sarganash," Jonathan said. "No," Dracula whispered. "It's about what came after." In the graveyard, all the soil was overturned, not by hand. From beneath, little graves, tiny coffins, all empty now. Footprints ringed each one, too small to be human, too many to count. That night, the cradle inside the castle was full again. This time, not with bones, but with flesh. A child, pale, wrapped in red silk, eyes black as coal and deeper than night. It did not cry. It only stared. Dracula stepped toward it. The child blinked and suddenly stood behind him. Jonathan shouted, but it was too late. The child whispered, "Father," and Dracula fell to his knees. From the castle towers, red light erupted like fire. The heir had awoken, but he was not a child. He was the hollow moon's son, a vessel forged from broken rituals and cursed love. Dracula's rebirth had not ended the curse. It had passed it on. In the sky, the moon split, not visibly but spiritually. All over the world, those with cursed blood stirred in their graves. The undead wept. The old horrors turned in their tombs. A new king had come, and he was only beginning to crawl. Beneath Castle Orlock, the earth opened wider. Tunnels that had never existed carved themselves into stone not by tool or time, but by memory. The heir, the hollow moon's son, had crawled downward, not to hide, but to root. Jonathan stood at the edge of the stairwell, torch in hand. The heat did not chase the cold here. The shadows clung harder, hungrier. Dracula, behind him, had not spoken in hours. The child's whisper still lingered in his ears. "Father." They descended. The air grew thick, not with dust, but with the scent of milk turned to blood. A cradle song echoed down the corridor. "Sleep, sweet thing in bones and ash, bite the moon and drink it fast." The song wasn't sung. It was remembered. By the walls, by the stone, by the world. They reached the bottom, a circular chamber impossibly large. Its ceiling disappeared into darkness, even though no roof stood above, a place that couldn't exist on Earth, yet did. In the center, a cradle grown from roots and ribs. Larger now, it pulsed with breath. All around it, children stood. Dozens, hundreds. Not alive, not dead. Unborn. Watching. Waiting. Jonathan raised the torch. "My God." Dracula said nothing. He stepped forward. One of the children stepped out, a girl of perhaps 6, hair like ink, mouth sewn shut. She held a doll made from dried tongues and feathers. She offered it to Dracula. He knelt before her. The doll blinked and wept. Suddenly, the cradle split open, not with sound, with thought. Every stone in the chamber wept black blood. Symbols carved into the floor flared red, and from the cradle, the air rose. Not a child, not anymore. His form was that of a thing born sideways into existence, limbs that bent wrong, skin that flicked between youth and age, face hidden beneath a veil of stitched flesh. He opened his mouth and spoke in every voice that had ever called Dracula Father. Jonathan felt his mind begin to crack. The air spoke not in sentences, but in histories, dreams of famine, plagues, vampire hunts, betrayals. Whole wars unfolded in a syllable, the fall of cities in a whisper. He saw himself grow old, die, and be born again in the child's eyes. Dracula stood still. The air turned to him. "You took the curse into your blood, but never your name. I am your name now, and I will carve it into every sky." The children moved. They began walking into the cradle one by one, disappearing as they touched the edge, not dying, becoming. Each soul fed the air. Each dream sharpened his shape. Jonathan screamed, "We have to stop this." He opened the codex, but every page was blank, except the last. It now read, "Blood ends only when all names are forgotten." Dracula stepped into the cradle. Jonathan shouted too late. The moment he touched its edge, the air froze. The cradle groaned, then snapped shut. Like a jaw, all light died. Jonathan was alone. For a moment, the silence was perfect. Then, a heartbeat, slow, loud, from the stone, from the air, from within him. A voice echoed once more. The father falls, the air grows, the cradle breaks the world. From every corner of the planet, horror stirred. Graves bubbled, oceans turned red, cities heard lullabies in their sewer pipes. Wolves were born with teeth made of scripture. The dead began to walk not to hunt, but to remember. The hollow moon had crowned its king, and earth was now his cradle. The moon was gone, not hidden, not eclipsed, gone. In its place hovered a pulsing wound in the sky, a hollow circular void that bled starlight and whispered lullabies only the mad could understand. The world began to change, and in every change, the heir's presence was felt. Jonathan emerged from the cradle chamber alone. Dracula was gone, consumed, trapped, or become. The air above the castle was thick with screaming fog. Each breath Jonathan took tasted like soil and milk. He wandered the halls like a revenant, clutching the codex, the pages of which now bled through his fingers like wet skin. Words twisted across the parchment, rewriting themselves again and again. There is no father now, only the name. The heir had not followed Jonathan out. He didn't need to. He was everywhere now. In every story whispered to a child at night. In the shadows that didn't belong. In the faces you almost recognize in crowds until they smile wrong. Entire cities began to sleepwalk. London, Madrid, Krakow. Citizens moved in unison, their eyes open, pupils glowing faintly red. They built structures from bone and ash cathedrals with no doors, only cradles for altars. In Berlin, every mirror cracked at the same moment. In Cairo, the moon's wound was seen reflected in the Nile, even though the sky above showed only stars. The Vatican's archives caught fire on their own. Monks were found stitched to the walls, their mouths filled with children's teeth. The last legible journal of Cardinal Bernini read, "It has no age, no tomb. It was never born, it was remembered. A name the world forgot, and now must say again." Jonathan took refuge in the mountains above Weser Valley. But even there, the wind began to carry songs. The children's rhyme returned. "Sleep, sweet sky, no stars to keep, the heir is here. The world must sleep." He barely slept. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw Dracula's face not screaming, not dying, but smiling, as if he knew something Jonathan did not. One night, Jonathan found a letter folded inside the codex, written in familiar, elegant hand. Dracula's. Jonathan, the heir cannot be slain. He is not flesh. He is idea. He is the version of me that never longed for peace. He is not my son. He is my sin. You cannot fight him, but you may bury him. And for that, you'll need a grave the size of heaven. Follow the night without stars. That is where I hid the blade. So Jonathan went north, through ice, through dream, through time, to a place the world had not named. There, he found a cave beneath a mountain made of frozen screams. Inside, a black altar, and upon it, a sword silver thin, humming with red light etched with the name no one could say aloud. Dracula. It was not a weapon. It was a memory made sharp. When Jonathan touched it, he saw everything. The first curse, the birth of Sarganash, the ritual that birthed the hollow moon, the daughter, the cradle, the child, and he saw the heir's true form, a mouth, endless, spanning time and space, made only to devour names. In the last pages of the codex, a final prophecy burned through. When the sky is swallowed, when silence hums, when cradles crack and graves rejoice, then one may speak the name aloud and bring light back to the world. Jonathan looked up. The hollow moon pulsed above, leaking shadow, and the sword sang in his hand. It was time to return. The world had forgotten the sky. The hollow moon loomed overhead like a lid clamped on reality. Its surface writhed with veins, cradles, and eyes that blinked sideways. Beneath it, cities twisted into cathedrals. Forests wept milk. The oceans turned into mirrors reflecting not the world above, but what waited beneath, and in every whisper, the name stirred. Jonathan Greymark stood atop the ruins of Castle Orlock. In his hands, the blade, Dracula, still humming with remembered blood. In his coat, the Codex's last page, warm with breath. Below, the world chanted without sound. The air had grown. He now stood as tall as the mountains formed from bone, ash cloth, and teeth. He had no mouth, until someone screamed, and then he opened his own. From that mouth poured dreams, endless, sick, addictive. Some saw lost lovers returned. Some saw children they never had. Some saw themselves, but with fangs, power, and fire. The world wanted the heir, because he fed on their wishes. Jonathan stood alone, trembling, dying, and then a whisper behind him. "You are not alone, Dracula. No longer a man, no longer monster, just presence, a voice stitched from legacy. His soul anchored to the sword." Jonathan tightened his grip. "I'm scared," he admitted. Dracula's voice was quiet. "Good. The fearless are fools. Speak the name." "But I don't know it." "You do." Jonathan looked up at the hollow moon. He remembered the cradle, the girl, the child, the curse. He remembered the first name he was ever told as a child, in stories to scare him, a name passed down not to honor but to contain, and he spoke it. Sarganash. The world shuddered. The hollow moon cracked like an egg of glass and flame. From within poured not blood, but names. Names that had been eaten, erased, unwritten. All returned. The air screeched a sound like paper burning underwater. He tried to crawl back into the cradle, but there was no cradle left, only the sword. Jonathan leapt. He plunged Dracula into the heir's heart, a heart made of centuries, sins, and sleeping gods. And as the blade pierced him, the sky returned. Stars blinked back into existence. The hollow moon collapsed inward like a memory finally forgotten. The children stopped walking. The fog lifted. The wells ran clear, and Dracula's voice faded into the wind. "Well done, Greymark." Jonathan awoke 1 week later. He lay in the ruins, surrounded by ash and silence. The sword was gone. The codex had crumbled into dust, but above him a sky full of light. He wandered the empty halls of Castle Orlock one last time. No echoes, no whispers, only peace. In the crypt, where once the cradle had grown, now bloomed a single black rose. Its petals shimmered red in the light. He left it there. Some things must sleep. Epilogue. Years passed. Stories faded. The hollow moon became legend. But sometimes, in libraries too dusty to breathe, a single torn page appears in a forgotten book. It bears no title, only a phrase written in blood. When the cradle rocks again, remember the name.